All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast. On today's episode, it's Thursday, so we will be doing some power rankings. We're going to break it down into the top 12 playoff teams. So we're just looking at playoff teams, and Mr. Denker is not in a good mood right now. So you're going to get a little preview of what's to come if you want to tune into the full episode of Locked On Lightning. But right now, you're getting Locked On NHL, and we are about to let those dogs out. Denker, let's do this.
Woof, woof.
For Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That was the worst dog woof. I might have to take you to the vet and put you down because that you. And you'll know because we're going to be talking about the Lightning. Why Denker is not feeling it tonight because the Lightning didn't look so hot against Ottawa. But we will talk about that a little bit later. Right now, thank you for tuning in and making Locked On NHL your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. I'm Chris Maselli from Locked On Avalanche. He is Mr. Adam Denker from Locked On Lightning. And we'll get to the power rankings in a little bit. But we wanted to start with Mr. Connor McDavid and not talking about how he's going to be, the Hart Trophy. I think the only thing that's left is if he's going to be the unanimous Hart Trophy, right? I think that's all that's left to really be asked about that. But he made a comment, which a lot of people are liking in the hockey world, myself included. And I think you are in that too. So He was just doing a press conference and he brought up the World or the Baseball Classic, whatever they call that thing. It's not the World Baseball Classic, right? Or is it just the Baseball Classic? It's the World Baseball Classic. All right,
correct.
So he made a comment saying, look, that final at bat between was it Ohtani and Trout. And he made a comment saying like that's what hockey has been missing for almost a decade now. I thought it was great. It's what we've wanted for years. He's saying thought it was great talking about the baseball. It's what we've wanted for years. Best on best. Everyone is talking about it. We, the NHL players, haven't had it for a decade. And he said, you look at that, and now I'm paraphrasing, but that was excitement. That people were tuning in. Even your average baseball fan. And I kind of put myself in that class. Like I enjoy baseball, but I tuned in for that. And he's kind of saying like, we need that. We need the everyday casual hockey fan that's not tuning in until like the playoffs to get drum up some excitement prior to the season starting, or, the break that they take during the Olympic break. And they haven't had it. And I know there's some fluky things going on with COVID and all that stuff, why they haven't, but he's 100% right. The NHL needs to address this, and they can't. They have to do something. Fine. The last couple of years you couldn't because of, like I said, because of COVID, but you need to do something going forward where you get some excitement like you just had with baseball. And it doesn't seem like the NHL is really doing anything to get something going and drum up some excitement.
Yeah, I think that he meant multiple things by that. I think obviously that was a shot towards the NHL and the Players Association about the Olympics, but also I think it was the World Cup of Hockey as well, which we haven't had since 2016, and they actually pushed it back. It was supposed to be 24, and now it's 25, but there's still a lot of question marks about that, and I think that also has to do, I think the NHL and the Players Association and whoever organizes it, I think they also want to see what kind of goes on with the whole issue that's going on in Ukraine, because, Russia does have a lot of great players. I mean, they can compete under a no flag or, something similar to what they do in the Olympics. But yeah, I think that McDavid's right. And I think the league would be foolish not to kind of act or listen to their best player. I mean, Major League Baseball hasn't been listening to Mike Trout for years, and he has been the face up until Shohei Ohtani. But yeah, like you said, you even watched it, and you're not exactly big on baseball. I think it was the most watched baseball game, if I'm not mistaken, ever. And
really,
I know
wow.
97 million people in Japan alone watched the semifinal game.
It was massive.
And it was more watched than the actual World Series game, the last World Series game that was played, or the average viewership of this past World Series. And I think the NHL needs to take a hard look at that model. Really. I don't see a reason as to why not. You are, other than baseball and basketball, you have a huge opportunity to really grow the game and get a lot of people buzzing about it. And I mean, even if they do something here in some sort of a World Baseball Classic like atmosphere, it doesn't have to take place somewhere in another country or whatever. But I think
that's what they've been doing. Like the Avalanche and the Blue Jackets went over to Finland to play 2 games in Finland. It was cool, but it was kind of cool for the Avalanche fan base and the Columbus Blue Jackets fan base. It didn't really expand out beyond that because it wasn't played here or in Canada. Like, you're going overseas. And I get that you have to do that stuff. I'm not saying don't do that stuff, but that is nowhere near what you're bringing in when you're doing a tournament that is including so many countries that this league represents.
Right.
You're not doing that when you go to Finland and play a couple games. Like, again, which is good. But you need something bigger than that, broader than that. And like you can do it before the season, just like baseball is doing. And for me, does it carry over into the baseball season? For me, no. Like, I'm still going to watch baseball the normal amount that I do.
Yeah.
And what happened in this baseball classic is not going to translate over into the regular season. But that's for me. But I'm not naive enough to understand that it might for a lot of people. It might for a lot of people say, like, wow, that was really exciting. Let me give baseball a try for at least the first month or two and see if that kind of play continues. You might get that with hockey. You always get it when they play the Olympics. Always. Like, there is excitement around that, and it does carry over into the regular season. I'm okay with it being midway through the year because you get those people that do get attached to it because of the Olympics, and hopefully they hang around because they don't have to watch an entire season. They just have to watch a couple months, and then you got the playoffs.
Yeah. And
then that's where the ratings go up a little bit anyway. So I don't know, man, like he's 100% right. But I think the thing that's kind of like upsetting to me is what's being planned. They talk about I keep want to say World Classic, the World Cup of hockey. They keep talking about that, and I think they have plans for it, but it's not happening this year. It's not going to happen before this regular season starts for going into next season. You don't have the Olympics until 26, right? So are we going to have to wait that long before we get anything that the world can kind of rally around for the NHL and hockey? That's not a good move.
I mean, Chris, even if they postpone this, because it doesn't seem like the league is completely wild. Because I remember when it happened in 2016, and those were my days at NHL.com, and it didn't even seem like it was a big deal then. So that shows you where the league was. Even if they don't do something like that, why don't you go back to the old recipe that worked in the 70s? With the NHL All-Stars, I believe they would play every year against Team Russia, the Soviet Union players that weren't able to come over here and play. Do something, even if it's players like, I don't know, Team Canada versus the NHL All-Stars. Do something like that over the summer. I think the players, regardless of if they just got done playing a cup final or have been sitting on the couch for a month, I think they would absolutely love that. You do that for a week. You do a best of 3. You got to do something. You can't just do dead air because, I mean, we talk about it every year in the off season. Once the season ends, you kind of get really nothing until the NHL draft.
Right.
So, have something in between as like a buffer to get people excited.
Yeah.
Or a prospect or a prospect game. The NCAA for football has a Senior Bowl. Why can't we have something like that before the draft?
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. And you touched on it. You know, the Russia thing is very real. They got to figure that out too. So I don't know. We're not in the position to make the decision. We're just telling them that they need to make a decision. Basically, go do our bidding.
It is decided.
All right, let's hear from Indeed. Yes, Indeed, and then we'll get into these power rankings, and we are going to start with Mr. Denker's team, and we're going to give him. This is going to be like Kanye West at the VMAs. We're just going to give you 11 minutes to go off, and we're just going to be quiet. Maybe not 11, but you're going to want to stick around for this, people, because Denker and I talked for about a half hour before we even hit record, and I should have just secretly hit record and let him go off because I was entertained. So hopefully you can recreate that. All right. If you are hiring, then you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. And Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked-on. This offer is valid through March 31st. So go to Indeed.com/locked-on to claim your $75 credit. Once again, Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Then you need Indeed. All right. Let's get to our power rankings. Like I said in the beginning, the power rankings are going to be a little bit truncated just to not all of the playoff teams, because we generally don't know all 16, I guess. You know, we have an idea, but there's still some points to be had, and jostling in the standings can still happen. So we're looking at 12. We're going to be looking at the top 12. If you are watching on YouTube, let's throw them up on the screen right now. There they are. I'll read them off to you if you're listening in your car or just not watching on video. Obviously, the Bruins are number 1. You have the Carolina Hurricanes at number 2, the New York Rangers at number 3, Colorado Avalanche at number 4, Tampa Bay Lightning at number 5, New Jersey Devils number 6, Vegas Golden Knights number 7, Toronto Maple Leafs number 8, Dallas Stars number 9, Los Angeles Kings number 10, Edmonton Oilers 11, and rounding out the top 12 are the Minnesota Wild. So there's a couple things we're going to talk about with this, but like I promised everybody, I am going to let Mr. Adam Denker, because we are recording this shortly after his Tampa Bay Lightning laid a, well, I can't say they laid an egg because they did score 2 goals. They laid a number 2. There we go. That fits. And they lost 7-2 to Ottawa. And Mr. Denker was not too happy about that. So I kind of want to let him take the mic right now and just explain. He feels like, I mean, what do you feel like? Do you feel like this is just going south for Tampa Bay and like just pack it in? Why even play the rest of the season?
No, let's not get that crazy, Chris. We're rational people here. But I would like to start off by just acknowledging my colleagues on the Locked On NHL channel who did vote for these rankings.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Tampa Bay's too high.
I appreciate the vote of confidence, thinking that the Lightning are the 5th best team in the league, but I mean, they're 11. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Really. So I mean, is it something where you hear it all the time with Tampa Bay? just get into the playoffs. Is that, I mean, that's no guarantee, right? They've proven that to be right over the past few years. But I think maybe we're falling into this false sense of reality that just because it happened the past 3 years, and that's very, very impressive, we just expect them to flip the light switch. It doesn't always happen that way. So are we giving them just too much credit right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Why? What's going wrong?
It's gone from just getting to the playoffs to, can you just get us to the first intermission without giving up a goal? That's what it's really gone to right now, Chris. Believe it or not. I mean, they came into tonight with a 2-game losing streak. Just an abysmal month of March, 5-5-2, being outscored 41-37. And they just lost to Montreal, the worst team in the Atlantic Division. And the talk around this team tonight was, just get this win under your belt. Just go out there, play well against, the Ottawa Senators. We all know, very talented young team. Not there yet. Probably going to be a pain in the butt in the next couple of years or so, possibly even next year. Because you got a big game, nationally televised game, probably. I didn't even check to see if it was on national television. It probably will be. Then again, the way the Lightning play tonight, it probably won't. So
flexing it. They're gonna flex the game out.
They're gonna flex it to 9:30 instead of 1. They're playing the Boston Bruins in Boston, 1:00 game, and they lost 7-2 tonight. So imagine, and they just played absolutely terrible, Chris. And imagine what, and I tweeted it out during the game. Imagine what it would look like on Saturday against a Bruins team who has lost, I believe, 11 games in regulation this year. If I'm not mistaken,
something like that.
Yeah,
it's not a lot.
If the Lightning go out, they might.
What is the problem? Is it defense?
The problem is the same mantra. It's even Paul.
You think it's wearing thin?
I think that it's a big vote of confidence by the coaching staff, namely, obviously, John Cooper, saying, kind of almost carrying that attitude. Let's just get into the playoffs and we'll figure it out as we always do. As we saw them did last year, very shaky early on in the series against Toronto, managed to get it together to lose to you guys in the finals. Okay. The issue is that you take away the month of January where they went 10-3, had a fantastic month. I believe if Toronto didn't play equally as well, they would have been in second place. The problem is you take away that month of January, the Lightning are maybe the first or second wild card team. And you mix in a little bit of a better season from Ottawa and Detroit and Florida. I forgot to mention Florida, but they have been playing really well as of late. I just think it's one of those things, Chris. I mean, we've seen it in all sports. And Cooper hasn't been around that long. He's been, I think it's 8 years now we're running on. It seems like longer.
That's a good amount of time for a head coach in any sport.
I think it's just, I don't know if it's gotten to a point, and I'm tired of the excuse. The tires have no more tread on them. It's gotten to a point where I'm starting to think that maybe the voice is getting a little quiet for the Lightning players' ears. And I'm not saying they're disregarding his instruction, but when you're making the same mistakes on March 23rd that you made on opening night, that's a little concerning when you're going out there playing like a 50-point team instead of a 90-point team. And maybe if it was any other team, maybe if it was a Vegas Golden Knights, a team, or a Dallas Stars, or any of these other teams that we have in the 12, maybe you kind of look the other way. Maybe you say, okay, that's just, they're not ready for it. The Lightning, everyone takes it for granted. I think that this team is just going to figure out. And I don't know. I look at it that way. Look from the inside. I'm curious as to what you feel from the outside looking in.
Well, I think there is something to be said for that, like of what they've done in the past, and I think that's where a lot of people will do when they do power rankings. They'll take this year only so much, and they put a lot of weight on what's happened before.
Yeah.
Right. And just look at the Avalanche. I don't want to turn this into a crossover episode, but
it's already got there.
Yeah. But the Avalanche are number 4 on this. The Dallas Stars are number 9, and the Dallas Stars have been in first place in that division for probably 90% of the season.
Yeah.
But I think when people do power rankings, they're looking, okay, that's the defending Stanley Cup champion. That means nothing. It genuinely means nothing. And if you follow the Avalanche like I do, like, it's been a struggle this year.
Yeah.
They're playing well, and they're playing way better than they should be with all the injuries that they've had. Are they the 4th best team out of the Stanley Cup contenders? I wouldn't put them there. They would definitely be in the top 10, but you have Minnesota, who's ahead of that. Well, I think Minnesota is like 2 points ahead of them right now as we're recording this. So they're very close. It's not like there's this big like Grand Canyon in between these 3 teams. But if you're ranking them, people are putting Colorado up there for the simple fact they are the defending champion, right or wrong. I wouldn't do it, even though that's the team I root for. I think Dallas is earned being above them because they've been above them for the majority of the season. And you get the same thing with Tampa. Tampa's been to the last 3 Stanley Cups. Everything that we talk about all year long. So people will just give them the benefit of the doubt. And until that they're proven wrong, if they lose in the first round and we do these, next year at this time, it's a completely different thing. So, you cover this team, and what you're saying, I'm sure has some value to it. And you said something before we recorded that I don't know if you were just mad and you were just still in the moment. Do you have time to rethink it? Do you still feel that way?
The Cooper comment?
It was the Cooper lost the locker room comment. I can't imagine he's done that.
I don't think he has, but 100%, I don't think it's gotten to the point where we're talking about replacing him. But I think
no.
Like, going back to my point, there's usually with a coach that has as much merit under his belt as John Cooper, when he talks, people listen. That's usually how it goes. But back to my point before, when we go from opening night and you compare the mistakes that happened then to the mistakes that happened months later, March 23rd, against a lesser team. Mind you, the Lightning opened up the regular season against the New York Rangers. So polar opposites when you're comparing the Rangers and the Ottawa Senators. And the same as the games are almost carbon copy. Well, I think obviously the Senators game was a lot more ugly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you didn't watch the Lightning game tonight, to our listeners and viewers, Cooper pulled Elliott with over 6 minutes left with a 2-goal deficit. 3-goal deficit. I'm sorry.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It didn't pay off. They lost the face-off, and I think they scored 5 seconds later. I just think something has to be said. There has to be some sort of observation. And I said it to you before, it's the nature of the sport where everybody, and a lot of it has to do with PR, and everyone says reset. The hot words are reset or start over and regroup. We haven't seen any accountability be taken with this team, and it really starts from the top. I'm not saying Cooper is completely checked out, but something has to be said when you're talking about game 1 and game set. I don't even know what game this is anymore. Right. Something has to be said, and I'm sure there are fans across the league that are listening to this right now that feel almost the same way about their team.
Right.
I'm sure. So,
all right, let's hear from FanDuel, and then there's some other teams here that I definitely want to talk about. Right. All right, but let's get to FanDuel. Tournament is heating up. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Sign up today to claim that no-sweat first bet, and then you can bet on everything from the money line to point spread to which team will be cutting down the nets. Are you still in on that, man? Like I'm
yeah. My bracket looks beautiful to a certain degree. I got.
Do you have how many of your Final Four teams are still in it?
2,
including the champion. Who do you have winning the whole thing? I never asked
you. University of Tennessee.
So does Kyle.
And
my locked on co-host.
And I got them playing the UCLA Bruins in the national championship. Yeah.
Who were the 2 teams that you had that are out, if you remember?
Kansas and Indiana, I believe, were the other ones.
That was my pick, Indiana. Yeah. So I all my Final Four was out after the second round. I was really good going into the second round, and then it all fell apart. So anyway, but if you're still in on it, or if you just want to get back in on it and kind of bet some of these NCAA games, download the FanDuel app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And you don't miss your shot at that no sweat first bet for up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked on to sign up and make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, the one that kind of jumped out at me was the New York Rangers at number 3, and having the Devils all the way down at number 6. Did that? I mean, that's the one that was kind of glaring to me. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, I see your point there. I think the Devils are way better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. But I mean, to me, though, and maybe this is recency bias, I thought Vegas should have been higher. A couple of weeks ago, the Lightning played the Vegas Golden Knights, and just they're a team where all it takes is a quick series and a long series by everybody else, and this team is off to the races. They've really impressed me, and Edmonton has really played well in some of the games that I've been able to catch here and there. But I don't know. I think
right now.
And let me ask you, Chris, though, and maybe this is what it is. Do you think maybe there's just a bias towards the Eastern Conference? Because everybody talks about how crazy the Atlantic Division is, how crazy the Metro is. And then you notice 7 to 12 are all, except Toronto, are all Western Conference teams. Do you think that people are not giving the Western Conference enough respect?
No, and I understand why. On the left side of the screen, 1 through 6, you got one Western team in Colorado. And then on the right-hand side, 7 through 12, you only have one Eastern team in Toronto. So it is weighed heavily, and I get it. We're still fresh off the heels of the trade deadline where that was all East Coast.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, people who are watching that are thinking, man, they're going to beat up on each other. They do. I think they genuinely have the best teams in the league. You got Boston, Carolina, New Jersey, Toronto. You can even, Rangers, like those are the best teams in the league. You really could just swap Colorado and maybe move up the Devils and Tampa and just slot Toronto in at number like 5 or number 6. And you genuinely would have the East on the top and the West on the bottom. And I think that's just kind of the way it is right now. It is. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to say it's an East Coast bias thing. A lot of people like to throw that out. But for this, it's genuine. Like the East has the best teams in the league, and you can't really argue that. The West has good teams, but from 1 to 8, that's going to be a dogfight. Where in the West, like whoever gets the wild card teams probably aren't going to be doing a lot of damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. With the Rangers, I just feel like they're too high. I mean, I don't feel like this team has like they definitely, you saw it right away, and in certain situations they did get better from Tarasenko, but I don't think overall they really got that much better. Like, I didn't think they got to that next level with Patty Kane. And I know that might sound a little blasphemous. I mean, listen, not even if it's not always going to be an immediate effect, especially if you have the best player at the. I think Timo Meier has done a phenomenal job in his early days as a Devil, which quite honestly, I think that and just their recent play as of late, the Devils should be in 3, but I don't know. I just look at these rankings and I feel like the more people lean towards the Eastern Conference, as like you said, they should, if you look from it from a certain perspective, I still think, I don't know, Chris, something's telling me that, and we kind of alluded to this a while back about, the Eastern Conference teams beating up on each other. I think the Stanley Cup winner comes out of the West again.
Really? Because the East is going to beat up on each other? Or
I just think because the East is so top heavy, it's going to take 7 for almost every matchup in
every
it.
series.
And I think that like it goes back to my Vegas Golden Knights point, and this goes for Dallas or even the Oilers if they could, steal a series and be able to relax, or even your guys. All it takes is a quick series or two, and I think that bark and bite from the big dogs in the East goes right away.
Yeah, it could happen. And that's the beauty of hockey in the playoffs is it's not just guaranteed whoever comes out of the East is going to win the entire thing. If the Avs are playing well, they're playing a lot better. If they can continue that, they got a shot to go at least back to the Cup. Dallas is playing well. The Kings are playing well.
Yeah.
Edmonton is playing well. And there you go. There's the difference between Colorado and Tampa being probably higher than they should be and Edmonton not. Because what's Edmonton done lately in the playoffs? Not a heck of a lot. Yeah, they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, but they haven't proven anything. They haven't gotten to a Cup final. So look what's happening. Like people are voting them lower when they're playing good. They're on a 5-game winning streak, I believe, right now. So this is a little bit weighted, and it's a little bit like in the minds of the voters of like, well, I'm going to prop this team up because they've done it before, fair or unfair. And it's working out for Colorado and Tampa, and it's not working out for teams like Edmonton and even Dallas and even Toronto because they're lower on the list because it's what have you done in the past couple of years? And the answer to that is not a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
So, but then why are the Rangers at number 3? I don't know. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. So, I don't know what we're going to do next week. We'll be back with more rankings, maybe trophies or something like that. I don't know. We'll talk to the powers that be and see what we do. But that's going to wrap it up for today. So he's Mr. Adam Denker from Locked On Lightning. Make sure you go over and check out that episode because that was just a little slice of what Denker is going to – he's got a half-hour show where he's going to read Tampa the Riot Act. So
yeah, I saw Chris was disappointed that I wasn't as funny on camera as I was before, but I'm saving it for my show. So check that out.
Yeah, no, I don't want you to do it all here. Yeah, go check them out. So, all right, everybody, if you're watching over on YouTube, we'll go full screen with these power rankings one last time. And thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He's Mr. Adam Denker from Locked On Lightning. I'm Chris Maselli from Locked On Avalanche. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.